People over profit. 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 People over profit.
All right.
All right, everybody. We're going to do a couple of speeches. There's 5 speakers we have. And I'm going to start with a personal story. And the personal story revolves around the 3 C's of why we're here today: citizenship, climate, and care. I'm going to discuss these things in a framework of people-centered human rights, the only way I know how, right? So when we're talking about citizenship and we're talking about people oftentimes fleeing violence, seeking refuge, the conditions in which that were manufactured for them to have to leave their homes are oftentimes brought upon by the United States. They curate the conditions for migration, and then they heavily criminalize migration. They deny them their human rights. They jail them in so-called detention centers, which are just really concentration camps, and they do this to children and they don't care. Right now, Congress has an opportunity to create a pathway to citizenship, and that's one step closer to acknowledging human rights, right? But immigration is a consequence of imperialism, U.S. imperialism, and we have to be very clear about that. The next thing we're here to discuss is climate, right? The climate is obviously one of the most important pressing issues of our time. The ecological situation is worsening as we have our congressional people who are careless and disinterested in doing anything that's going to be substantive. We can't have an inhabitable planet and continue the way production is going. We cannot have an inhabitable planet and then continue to only be focused on profits, right? One thing that has to be made clear, though, is there is no way, it's an impossibility to preserve the planet if we do not demilitarize, as the United States Army produces more CE2 emissions than 160 countries combined. They consume more than 280,000 barrels a day from 2017, 18, and 19 of oil. There is no way to preserve the planet without demilitarization. And again, this is an issue of human rights, but also anti-imperialism. Expansion of empire is a costly endeavor. It's destroying lives, disrupting markets, and also at the expense of people here and globally. So global solidarity is a necessity.
My name is Charles Strait, and I'm the pastor of the Faith United Methodist Church in Dalton, Illinois. And I greet you in the spirit of joyous rebellion. You've heard the heartfelt report of the state of climate change. You've heard about immigration. You've heard about expanding home health care and Medicare expansion from people like us who are directly impacted by these issues. But as a person of faith, I want to let you know that these are not just political issues, these are moral issues. I don't care what faith tradition you come from, it teaches you that your God cares about all people and wants you to care about people as well. Even if you have no faith tradition at all, you grew up knowing the golden rule that says, do to others what you want them to do to you. In yesterday's Washington Post, the headline read, corporate America launches massive lobbying blitz to kill key parts of the Democrats' $3.5 trillion economic plan. That ain't right. This blitz was led by drug makers, big banks, tech giants, and others who are preparing to fight the party's package, including proposals that raises the taxes on corporations who have more money than all of us put together. That ain't right.
That ain't right.
There is a moral and destructive greed that pervades corporate America, and we must point out the harm that this self-serving billionaires in our country are doing to the poor and to each one of us here in the richest nation in the world.
The whole world's watching. The whole world's watching. The whole world's watching.
Who do you serve? Who do you protect? Who do you serve? serve? Who do you protect? Who do you serve?
The warning goes for you as well.
Hey,
Warning goes for you as well. I need you on the sidewalk or you're subject to arrest. Thank you.
Hey, we got your back.
Hey, we got your back. Hey, we got your back. Hey, we got your back.
Good evening, Chicago. That was the scene this past Wednesday, September 2nd, on Michigan Avenue as the People's Lobby hosted a dance party to invest in care, climate, and immigration and citizenship now here in the United States. Chicago, United States, everywhere. Joining me tonight is Kira Macoun. Kira, welcome to the show.
Hey.
Out at the protest, the rally. And joining us also from the People's Lobby is Eu Craciunescu. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Eu.
Hi there. It's Eu Craciunescu, but
sorry.
No
Thanks
worries.
for helping correct me. And of course,
I practiced it for a while, Jerry. I should have let you know because I could have taken that for you.
I didn't realize until I was with all the show prep that I did. It's like, oh, damn, I forgot to ask him how to properly pronounce his name. My last name is Vasilatos, and everybody mispronounces it because we've just got those ethnic names, which, and
Well,
that's
while we're
Oreo
at it-
joining us. Say hello, then go away.
While we're at it, my last name is pronounced Macoun, but
Macoun, and I've been mispronouncing that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All right, so all together.
all the time.
All separately. I'm Jerry Vasilatos,
I'm Kira Macoun.
and
I'm Eu Craciunescu.
thank goodness we got it all right. So thanks for joining us tonight. And I'm going to pass it over to Kira because Kira was actually at the rally on Wednesday. And I have her here to talk a little bit more with you to help guide the interview on what the People's Lobby is all about.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we could get you on here, Eu. So I just want to do like full disclosure for our audience. Nice little coffee mug show there, Jerry.
Thank you.
Yeah, look
Whoa.
at you.
YouTube doesn't monetize us. There are mugs available in our Cafe Press store below to help with our streaming costs. Thank you, Kira.
Yep, you're welcome. But full disclosure for our audience that I have been a People's Lobby member since 2016, and have been to many actions. I've been arrested with the People's Lobby in past actions and that sort of thing. So I just want to make sure that our audience knows that I am involved with this organization as well as doing this story on this particular action, so everybody knows. And then beyond that, this particular action I got to actually late because I have a baby and I had to make sure everything at home was peaceful before taking off. But the reason that I only made it really at the tail end, honestly, is my own lack of navigation skills. But then when I finally knew where I was going, the traffic was so backed up. There was a wall of buses, cars. I'm so grateful that I did not choose to drive. I actually biked to the action. And at one point I was sitting behind these buses and I was like, I got to start weaving through the traffic. I got to go, right? I'm super late. And so, I just started weaving through all the traffic. And I was like, I know that it's rush hour, but I don't remember traffic being this bad. And then it dawned on me as I was getting closer and closer, started hearing all the ruckus, oh, that's right. I'm going to an action that is stopping traffic, which is why.
That's the point of it. The whole point of it is to disrupt normal activities to get attention on the issues.
So I just wanted to say that, and great job on that. Woo! But mostly I just wanted to get an idea. One of the reasons I get so excited about doing Chicago Corner is because I really, who I am is, in the world is somebody who wants to make getting involved look easy, right? And so, because it is easy, it's absolutely super duper easy. And so I'm so glad, AU, you came to chat with us today, because I wanted to talk to you not only about your own involvement and your own self-interest in doing this and spending your time doing this, but also how do people get involved and that sort of thing. So let's just start with you. Tell me a little bit about who you are, why you're involved with in activism, and a little bit of your background, not
Right.
only activist and organization world, but also employment and personal life, as much as you happy to divulge.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Eu Craciunescu. I am an organizer with the People's Lobby and also a fourth-year undergraduate student at the University of Chicago. I began working with the People's Lobby 2 years ago, started off as a volunteer, and then began getting more involved with their environmental justice team in particular. That's something that I'm studying at the University of Chicago, environmental and urban studies. I would originally got involved with a student action group at the university that was, in a sense, sponsored by the People's Lobby, U Chicago Student Action. And that's really how I got in touch with the People's Lobby, met a lot of great folks, started going to meetings every now and again. And then, I've been working with them in a much more full-time capacity now, working as an organizer, yet again, mainly with environmental justice, also working with media, with communications, and really on a number of different campaigns that we've got going on, both in the city, on a state level, and as this action shows, at a national level too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really great that you got involved as a student, and I feel like that's a very common story among many of us. That was exactly how I got involved initially inside of activism as well. Now, was it environmental justice specifically that you started looking to get involved around, or was there like a very specific circumstance, anything like that?
So I knew I wanted to get involved with some kind of environmental organizing. I really, when I came to Chicago 3 years ago, I'm originally from Durham, North Carolina. I began to learn about and more understand this concept of environmental justice. Really, the fact that many people see environmentalism as recycle, these being zero waste lifestyle, but really understanding the root injustices that are a part of environmental degradation and pollution, and understanding that different communities, marginalized Black and Brown communities, definitely suffer a lot more from environmental injustice. So I really became interested in that. And I actually, when I joined my student action group, we were working with the People's Lobby on a campaign called Water for All. This was a campaign that started over 2 years ago, is still an active campaign. And so it's geared towards preserving water affordability in Chicago, because water rates are skyrocketing, and also retrofitting our whole water infrastructure system to make sure that people aren't suffering from lead pollution, and also preventing privatization. So by getting involved with this campaign, I made contacts with the People's Lobby, began working with them more, and I realized I do really love this work. It really motivates me. I go to the University of Chicago, which is an institution that sits in a place of privilege, definitely a very tense relationship between the university and the surrounding communities. There's a long history of displacement and discrimination from the university, and being cognizant of that relationship really made me want to stay involved in organizing as a student, but also organizing in Chicago as a whole.
That's great. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about, I'm going to go over to the organization itself, and then we'll talk about the actual action and everything that happened and all of that. Tell us a little bit more about the People's Lobby, how they operate. And I also know that they have various arms, like their student action and like their electoral sort of arm. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the People's Lobby is a Chicagoland-based grassroots organization that works towards organizing support for progressive policies and candidates. Many of these candidates come from our own communities, and we really support these policies and candidates that center people and profit over the interests of the wealthy and corporations. So like you said, the People's Lobby has a number of different arms and a number of different campaigns that they're involved in, both in terms of what issue they're involved in and also what level of governance we're working with. So we have city level campaigns, county level, working on like state level campaigns, as well as as was discussed in the rally, national campaigns being discussed in Congress. And so, yeah, we also work around a number of different issues. We have an environmental justice task force. We also have more geographically based campaigns like our Southwest Side teams, we have a Gig Workers Alliance as well. So really working on a number of different issues at very many different levels of governance.
That was actually one of my very favorite things about the People's Lobby. When I found the People's Lobby, I was like, oh my God, I found my home in activism. And one of the reasons I say that is because they have so many things going on, and they have leaders inside of every single thing. I was part of the Mass Liberation Task Force when I was more active with the organization physically. And what I loved about that was I got to work inside of where I was passionate, which was reforming the criminal justice system. And at the same time, I knew there were groups of extremely capable, smart, organized people working on other things that were also important to me, including immigration, including the way that funding was being spent, and climate, and all of that. So it was one of my very favorite things about how the People's Lobby operates. And so, and then not to mention, of course, the Reclaim Chicago, which is the electoral arm, which I've also been involved with as well. And I love that is something that you saw in the organization as well. It really lit me up personally.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Reclaim Chicago initiative part of the group?
Yeah, so Reclaim Chicago is our political action committee that we use to endorse political candidates. And so that's really active during election cycles.
Yeah.
That's good to know, because that's something we want to be directly involved in when election season is upon us.
Yeah, definitely stay tuned around election season, whether it's aldermanic candidates, state representatives, or national representatives. That's when the work really kicks up.
We need to vet them.
Absolutely. And I know that Reclaim Chicago has been very successful in getting elected officials in office. And so we'll keep working on that and keep doing that. Now tell us a little bit about Wednesday's action. What I'm most interested in you explaining to our audience is not only what Wednesday's action was about, but about the timing of it. Like why now?
Yeah.
Why this last Wednesday?
For sure. So really the timing is very key with this action. And right now, U.S. Congress is poised to do some really great things for our community. So there's an act, the Build Back Better Act, which is a massive $3.5 trillion budget package that would make historic investments in healthcare, childcare, climate action, immigration reform, among so many other things. And doing this all while being paid for by taxing billionaires and corporations their fair share. Unfortunately, those very billionaires are working very hard through lobbying organizations like the Business Roundtable to undermine that progress and gut this proposal. Right now, Congress is in the process of negotiating this package and actually making sure that that $3.5 trillion is the amount of money that's being invested into our communities. And we found it was really important to organize this action during that process so we can keep pressure on Congress. And we organized this action on Michigan Avenue, right? The Magnificent Mile. This is the center of Chicago retail. This is where a lot of those very CEOs of those corporations have business, where they make their money. And we decided it's time that we take over this major intersection on Michigan Avenue to tell billionaires and Congress that it's time to stop listening to corporate lobbyists that want to gut proposals that are necessary for our communities. We need to make sure that this 3.5 trillion proposal stays at that amount and not a single penny is spared for the money that our communities frankly need.
Ayo, if I can ask a question really quickly, I'd noticed that there were some news crews out there at the rally on Michigan Avenue. I noticed at least one camera crew. Was this well covered by our local media stations at the event and afterwards in evening news segments?
Yeah, so unfortunately, when looking on the evenings after the action, we didn't get very much coverage from these major news sources. They came by with their cameras, and we're appreciative of that. But at the same time, sometimes the media decides what stories are newsworthy for their audiences. We personally believe this is about as important as it gets when it comes to actually investing in our communities. We want to shut down Michigan Avenue for that. So it's obviously very important to us, and it's just a matter of whether media organizations see it as important. And it's clear from the coverage that that's not necessarily the case.
Well, this is why we're here. And I find it just completely offensive that they didn't give more coverage to this. At the very least, I don't know if Chicago Tonight covered it, but it's obviously what you guys are doing. The whole point of it, shutting down Michigan Avenue, disrupting things, is to get attention on this. So that's a larger problem, is getting our local media to pay attention. They had this issue with the March for Medicare for All march several months ago. I think only WGN was out there. So I think we have to figure out, even with action groups like your own, how do we pressure the media into covering this so that everybody watching the regular nightly news is seeing what's going on? Right. Because it matters, but it doesn't help if it's not getting coverage to spread awareness on what you guys are trying to bring attention to.
Definitely. And I mean, getting the media coverage is important for us. But, that's one of the reasons why we work on so many different levels. I mean, we organize actions like this to be seen by both people in Chicago and media organizations, but at the same time, we're actively involved in many other activities, directly engaging with our elected officials, directly engaging with communities, and organizing in many different ways, either remotely over the internet through action campaigns, or actually sitting down with our elected officials and talking through these are the things that we need. This action is a part of that overall strategy. With this national campaign to make sure that this budget bill is passed, these $3.5 trillion are passed, this is one arm of that whole campaign. And, we're definitely looking at different ways to try and gain more and more attention as these actions go on.
I have a suggestion, if it's feasible. During your next rallies and marches, if it's possible, I know that the stations are spread out, but maybe you should just camp out in front of the NBC Tower, camp out in front of CBS.
That plaza is really nice.
The plaza is really nice, but if you don't have the news stations coming to you, maybe setting up, they can't ignore you. This is something I was impressed with the March for Medicare for All, at least out in California. They set up out in front of CNN. And now I don't know how much CNN was covering it, but I think that maybe that, again, if it's feasible, might be helpful to the strategy. They can't ignore you when you're right outside their window. For what it's worth, I guess they can, but to plant stakes right outside there is also going to make a bit of a statement, because if you've got other news media or independent media covering it, you're right out in front of the news stations, then they've got no excuse not to know about what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now you had an action like maybe a month ago at this point that was out by the Bean in Chicago. How do you pick your locations for the action? While we're on this topic, you mentioned this is where a lot of people do business over Michigan Avenue. Why do you pick places like, say, the Bean or the various other locations that we've done actions?
Right. So that past action you're referring to on July 10th was our Senator Dick Durbin We Can't Wait action. That was very much targeted towards our Illinois U.S. Senator Dick Durbin. And he is the second most powerful member of the Senate Majority Whip. He holds an immense amount of power within the Senate, and we were out there, very much in the same vein of Wednesday's action, asking or demanding him that, he use his power to make sure that the infrastructure that our communities needed is paid for, that we pass a voting rights bill, we offer a pathway to immigration for undocumented residents, as well as actually moving on the climate crisis. In regards to the location for the action, I mean, the Bean and Millennium Park is a wonderful place to host action, not just because it's so central, but we are really able to engage with so many people. I mean, a big part of the People's Lobby's work is building power with community members, right? And we do that both through organized meetings as well as, engaging people on the street during these actions. So, one of the great things about this action at the Bean was that we were able to talk with folks, number one, tell them why we were there, what we were demanding, and be able to hear them say oh wow, these are all really great issues that you're putting forward. I want an expansion of healthcare. I want Medicare to be expanded. I want there to be paid child leave, paid elder leave, as well as I want Congress to invest more money in climate action. And you start to make these conversations with folks and realize this is something that our communities want and need. So that site for the Bean was an amazing spot where we could both get a lot of attention from folks, but also engage with conversations with folks we wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And one of the other things that I want to point out inside of what you're sharing is there are so many actions, not only actions out in the street actions, but actions as in activities that the People's Lobby and Reclaim and Student Action all do that really many, many types of personalities can get involved, you know? So if you, I for one love talking to people. Shocker.
No.
I know. Crazy. So for me, going door to door and canvassing or phone banking was always really easy for me. But I do remember some of our actions being, almost like street theater. And there's a need for folks who are creating signage and props. And it's that's so not me. Please don't make me paint anything or, do anything of that matter because it's probably not going to look that good. But also, I've lobbied with the People's Lobby actually in Springfield, and that was extremely exciting. And so there's just so much to do, you guys. It makes me makes my hair want to get set on fire. There's so much to do, and one of the things I really want to convey. Not only about the People's Lobby, I just love the People's Lobby because they're so representative of what I'm about to say, but is that there is a place for everybody. And if we're all doing that little bit of effort inside of the thing that we are so passionate about and trust that others are doing the same and encouraging others to do the same, then that's when we really build power and start to snowball and find each other and things really start to magic starts to be created with that. So go ahead, Eu.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something that I really love about the People's Lobby is I started to join when, I was a student and still am a student. So, my capacity to engage in the work really, really changes over time. And what I love about the People's Lobby is they really work with you to find how you're passionate about the issues, what's your self-interest, and how can you really contribute to these campaigns. We're constantly proposing that new leaders, volunteers, put themselves in different roles, maybe roles that they're initially uncomfortable with or, have not done before. And we really try to get folks to, like you said, get their their creative juices flowing, and also really try out new things in terms of organizing. That was one of the things I really loved about our action on Wednesday, was that, you know, this was a people's dance party for care, climate, and citizenship, right? Like we went out into the crosswalk on Michigan Avenue and danced for these things that we really care about.
People's Lobby's got some good dancers too.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I saw people dancing there better than I would like in any club in Chicago.
I totally believe it too.
But I think, like, yeah, this action is so indicative of how we're able to harness that passion and creativity from all of our leaders, and really get the best out of everyone on our team.
Awesome. You know, I could talk about People's Lobby and all the actions and everything that we could be doing or should be doing all night, but I do know that I promised you it'd be 20 to 30 minutes, and I'm past my time already. So before you go, please let us know how do people, you know, I got a twofer here for you. How do people get involved, specifically people who live in the Chicago or Chicagoland area? How do people get involved, or can they, if they're, you know, in the greater state of Illinois or even out of state, anything like that?
Definitely. Yeah. So number one, follow us on our social media. On Facebook, we're the People's Lobby. Twitter, we're at People's Lobby USA. Our website is peopleslobbyusa.org. And, you know, follow all, you know, keep updated. We post a lot of things on Facebook and Twitter about the actions that we're doing, the campaigns that we're involved in. Our website, you're able to subscribe to emails where you can get a lot of important updates about actions that are coming up, as well as campaigns in general. Like is up on the screen right now. If you want to get involved with a campaign specifically, you know, we have these actions, right? At the People's Dance Party, we asked all of the participants to email their representative in Congress. So you can definitely access this. This is on our Facebook page on our event, the People's Dance Party event. And so, yeah, getting on those social media accounts and following our website and getting the email updates, that's really the best way you can get involved. And from there, you can start coming to meetings, start going to campaign meetings that you're excited about. And, you know, depending on your capacity, you know, we accept people with all sorts of time frames, right? Like we want to make sure that if you don't have a lot of time to organize, that's okay. Get involved how you can. If you're really dying to do a lot of work, there is space for you to do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I've had people ask me about getting involved just in organizing and activism in general, and they're like, but I really I want to like kind of lead things. And I was like, oh, just get involved. Like, you will be a leader, and they will take leaders anywhere you go. They will take leaders, you know, absolutely. But one of the things that's really great also about the People's Lobby, you know, if anybody is considering getting involved, is that there is ample leadership training. There's so much growth training inside of this organization. You know, I've done training in leadership through TPL. I've also done training on actual like elections, looking at like what would it be like to be a candidate, just because I had no idea. Right. And to really get grounded in reality around that is super powerful.
Definitely.
So anything else, AU, before we say goodbye and we let you get back to your Friday night?
Well, I mean, thank you so much for having me. And for folks who want to get involved with the People's Lobby, you know, we are continuing this campaign to pressure Congress, right? Like this national campaign to get this infrastructure bill through, to get the healthcare, climate action, and immigration reform that we need. This is an ongoing campaign. We're going to continue pressuring Congress. We're most likely going to have another action later on in the next few weeks or so. So really just you know, stay involved, get involved if you're not already. And we're happy to have you. And thanks again so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, AO. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a good night. Hey.
Hey, you.
That was informative. I'm glad you were able to do all the heavy lifting. I mean, I had some questions too, but no, that was good. That was fantastic that we could share what they're doing with our viewers here in Chicago. And I do think so much of the lifting. See, there you go. At Comfy Fitness.
Yeah, I'm in a slap happy mood tonight. I was trying to keep it together for our guest.
Well, you are, and I'm sure that the libations are helping as well.
They definitely do. They always do. My hubby made me a little margarita for tonight's
There you go.
show. And
I'm
super excited to be here with you, Jerry.
Here we go. From Ed Heller, the Kira
Gun Show. 100%.
So, well, I'm glad that you were able to bring AO and the People's Lobby to our attention so we could share that with our viewers tonight. And as always, there's always places for people to get involved and help, as he just helped share with everybody. So I just think, Kira, so much of the problem is getting mass media attention on these things. So long as they're in the pockets of those who are controlling the narrative, it's hard, but that's what we're here for, to share these other...
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I heard the other day, I was listening to some podcast, I don't remember which one, but they had said something really profound and something I hadn't thought of before. But they were talking about actions and seeing actions out in the street. And one of the most useful things to do, if you're not interested in joining in the street, one of the most useful things you can do is actually call your local press and media and say, hey, there's this action going on. You guys should come down and cover it. And if people who wanted to get involved but didn't want to get involved in that way would do something like that, that would actually be really impactful too. So there are just so many ways to get involved, to fight. And honestly, in my experience of things, when we get involved and push back, and some of the best relationships are created, some of the most fun I've had has been inside of my activism and organizing. I mean, and some of the most memorable moments of my life are not only with the People's Lobby, but in many of the other actions that I've done over the years. So I just really want to encourage anybody who is considering it or questioning their ability to do it to just jump in, because now's the time. Now is the time.
Yeah,
it's always the time, but now is really the time.
Now more than ever. I mean, bugging local media, that's a great idea. I mean, I got more politically, I got involved more in the political scene in Chicago here myself, when I felt like I don't have the background to actually run for any kind of an office, nor do I necessarily think that I'm capable of that. But I figured with my media experience, I threw in to help two mayoral candidates. I think it was the 2015 election cycle, actually before that too. But it's like, where can I direct my talents to help and make and affect some change? And it was like producing and shooting video. And at least I felt like in some way, small way, I was contributing in a way to help get the right people in, even though they did not end up winning. That was my direct involvement. And it came from the frustration of, what can I do? How can I help? Where am I valuable? And I think everybody needs to assess what's in their toolbox, where they can be valuable, and just do it, however way that you can, because the more people that do it, the more engaged everyone else is, and the more we might make more steps forward than backwards. Yeah. But speaking of our elected officials, or those that shouldn't be, I think.
Speaking of segues.
Speaking of segues, how about this piece of shit?
Yeah. Oh my God. I haven't read a story in so long that's made me laugh out loud so much as this one. Wow. It's incredible.
I thought when I saw his picture, this was Senator Rick Scott from Florida. He's got that same evil overlord image going on, but this is our local alderman, Jim Gardner. And let me share with our audience how Jim Gardner thinks it's acceptable to legislate, although I as we get into the article, we all know it's unacceptable. So this comes to us by way of Block Club Chicago and Ariel Perella Orelli. Now, there have been some updates to this story, but this story is about 2 days old. So I'm going to start at the beginning. Alderman Jim Gardner calls constituent and fellow alderman a bitch, rips his critics in leaked text messages. The profanity-laced text show the alderman ripping people who dared to challenge him, including an alderman and a female chief of staff who he deemed an alderman's bitch. All right, so text messages between Alderman Jim Gardner of the 45th and a former aide show the Northwest Side leader blasting his critics and political opponents and urging an employee to avoid helping a constituent who voted against him. Because don't we know that's what public service is supposed to be about? The text messages from 2019, verified by Block Club Chicago, were between the alderman and a person who no longer works for him. Block Club is not naming this person because they no longer work for the city and are not a public official. The leaked texts were first published by the People's Fabric, a community website focused on Northwest Side political news. Block Club reviewed the texts and the phone numbers they came from and confirmed the number matches the alderman. In one text exchange, Gardner refers to Alderman Scott Waguespack of the 32nd chief of staff as his bitch. The aide said this was after a briefing held by Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and Gardner sent them to because he could not attend. Now, here are those. How about that, man? Wow. In another text,
my girl with blonde, dirty hair.
he's just like some kind of, he is a street thug. In another text,
that's what I was gonna say. He's just from the streets. It's like there's no, yeah, it's amazing.
He's a gangster serving in city council. In another text, Gardner calls Alderman Tom Tooney of the 44th the city's first openly gay alderman. I'm not going to repeat what he says, but you can see it up here on screen because it's just completely unacceptable. The former staffer said this exchange was in reference to Tooney's appearance at a 2019 zoning meeting, which failed to advance the Point project at Six Corners because then Alderman Margaret Lorino of the 39th said not enough aldermen were present. Tooney said he would not be here yesterday, and here he is. Effing snake, reads another text message about the exchange. Boy, the quorum vote ended up stalling development at the Point because of opposition from Gardner. He finally backed the project in 2020. It's under construction and set to be completed in 2022. It's disgusting and deeply disappointing that a community leader thinks it's necessary and appropriate to refer to women as a bitch, said Ann Emerson, chief of staff for Waguespack. Waguespack called the texts misogynistic and said Gardner owes the public and Emerson an apology. Mayor Lori Lightfoot's office said the mayor also saw the People's Fabric report. While the alderman did not acknowledge that he wrote these texts, the mayor urged him to apologize to those involved as soon as possible, said Cesar Rodriguez, a spokesman for the mayor. The words attributed to him are personally offensive to the mayor and any woman who reads them. Now, Tooney could not immediately be reached for comment, but other political officials weighed in Thursday. There's no place for misogyny and homophobia in our city council or our county party, Representative Kelly Cassidy wrote in a tweet. I'm disgusted by Alderman Committee Person Gardner's actions and words here. Your constituents deserve better. Your city and your party deserve better. We all deserve better. I mean, this is just kind of like the tip of the iceberg as far as.
This is like if I got in office, right? Like
this is why what?
What it would sound. This is like what it would sound like if I got into office. It's like, screw that, you know. Like,
oh, really?
we want good people in office. No, I'm just playing. I had to laugh because it sounds like an exchange that I would have in private, be it like talking shit about other people with my girlfriends over text. It's, you know, and this is someone who legislates. This is someone who makes up the rules for all of the people in our community. As I was reading this story to my husband, you know, it was like, yeah, I mean, the guy's a jerk, but like, you know, until we got later into the story where it talks about all of the things where he was avoiding actually.
Well, here's the most egregious offense.
Yes. Go into that because
how about this?
At the beginning, I was like, okay,
this
like,
bitch,
he's an idiot and an asshole, but like, you know,
no, he's
wrong, but this is shit. Yeah.
This guy like uses his position to lash out and terrorize people. This bitch on Kildare will pay. Since Gardner was elected, he has reacted harshly to media coverage or social media postings he deems overtly critical. Other texts from the alderman previously shared with Block Club Chicago show Gardner saying, "This bitch on Kildare will pay," following a block party on Kildare Avenue. In another text exchange from 2019, also covered by People's Fabric, Gardner made similar comments about a constituent on Kenneth Avenue who asked for help on her block in preparation for a block party. Gardner told his staff not to help the woman because she supported another candidate in the aldermanic campaign, ending the text with F her.
Yeah.
Most recently, 6 residents of the 45th Ward sued the alderman and the city itself in June for allegedly blocking them or deleting critical comments on his Facebook page. Now, I want to add something to this. I haven't engaged yet so much with Mayor Lightfoot, but Rahm Emanuel's Facebook page blocked me when he was mayor when I was making disparaging comments about him. And I didn't realize I like to troll these people because it gives me a little bit of satisfaction, but I wasn't aware at that time that there are laws that are supposed to allow us to post on our public officials page. I think there was another alderman whose page I was posting on, and I was blocked from their Facebook page. So
that
these
was the
people
big
just
deal with Trump. That was the big deal with Trump and his Twitter and Facebook page, because he was erasing tweets and responses to his tweets, and also blocking people. And once you become a public official, you don't get to do that anymore. Sorry, you actually relinquish those kinds of rights. But yeah, I know that this story is specifically about the name calling, which is why the story led with the name calling. But I really think that, it's further on in this article where the real egregious stuff starts, right? Where he refuses to help constituents because he knows they didn't vote for him. That is not okay.
He routinely limits attendance,
right?
Various community meetings, and has prevented reporters and ward residents from attending multiple meetings since he was elected. Last month, he refused to speak at a news conference in his ward until a Block Club Chicago reporter and photographer were removed from the premises. I don't understand how he can get away with this. And I don't understand how city council, other alder people don't put rules in place that say, hey, you do this, you are out.
Yeah.
You're out.
Yeah.
And enforce the rules.
What is the precedent, Jerry? I mean, I don't personally know, honestly.
Well, the precedent is there. You're not supposed to do it, but he's doing it and getting away with it until Block Club Chicago reports on it, or these texts leak to show what a piece of shit he really is. And I'm going to use that kind of language right back in his face. Yeah.
A federal law would cover that as being a First Amendment infringement, correct?
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
He's a municipal legislator, but he still has to follow the rules of our Constitution. And he does not do that when he blocks people from speaking out on his social media pages. So that is a huge issue. The name calling, it is unbecoming. It is it's not nice. It's not workable. It's not helpful. All of that is true. And I think that the bigger issues are these ones where he literally stops the press from being a part of whatever it is he's doing. He avoids certain community groups and members. That is not okay. And then refuses to help people who he did not vote for him. He's got to go.
It exposes his utter contempt for his constituents and the public because he uses his position in office as a fiefdom. Fiefdom? That's what he's his position of power serves himself and screw the rest of us. And now at this point, now here's the update to the story. Alderman Jim Gardner apologizes to fellow alderman he called a bitch in a leaked text because he got caught.
Come on.
Do we know this is because he got caught?
Nobody believes that apology.
Of course not. Well, so Ann Emerson, Waguspac's chief of staff and the subject of one of the offensive texts, said Gardner reached out to her Friday morning via text and asked her to call him. Instead, she requested an in-person meeting, which has yet to be scheduled. Of course, Gardner's office declined to comment on the apologies or the text messages.
It's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. Well, he issued this. He apologizes, but that's it. It's like literally like third-party apology, and he's not going to address the substance of the text messages or his behavior. Yeah. The words attributed to him are personally offensive to the mayor, and any women who reads them, said Caesar Reach. Oh, I mentioned that quote. But yeah, so that's the update. He apologized, but we know it's simply to do damage control since he was exposed on what leaked and what they reported on through Block Club Chicago. So These people got plus, and we've also got our aldermen that are under investigation. Patrick Thompson Daly, for one. Ed
What
Burke,
is he under investigation for? I know about Burke. Everybody knows about Burke.
tax evasion.
Oh,
Tax
really?
evasion.
Okay. I didn't know.
And they can continue to serve while they are under the scrutiny of the feds, obviously committing more stuff. I would assume.
They be able to? Come on. Oh, and so one of the things, I just looked at my notes for this story because even though I had fairly limited time to look things up, I just wanted to make sure that I got a little bit of information beyond the article itself and beyond my opinion, just so that everybody who's watching is aware of just who Jim Gardner is. He believes in the legalization and taxation of recreational marijuana. He's not in favor of an increase in property taxes, municipal taxes, real estate transfer taxes. He's not in favor of the LaSalle Street tax, which I am totally for.
Yeah.
Gardner does not believe in stricter gun control laws. He believes educating youth on the dangers of illegal guns will help reduce gun violence. And he said he believes in keeping Chicago a sanctuary city, even though he was one of the 8 aldermen to vote against strengthening the city's welcoming city ordinance. So that is who Gardner is. He's, like most human beings, a bit of a mixed bag. But I think as far as some of the more important economical conversations in the city, like the real estate transfer taxes and the LaSalle Street tax, I gotta disagree with him on that.
I think we need to we need to do some research on who is for the LaSalle Street tax. I think Waguespack was for it. I think I remember, if I'm remembering correctly, he's one. I
think that you might be right on that. And then I know that there was a surge of basically socialist aldermen that came in back in 2019 that are all in support of that tax. But I think that's a super important tax.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it would bring so much money,
especially since we can't release the TIF funds, since that's the mayor's personal slush fund to use wherever they see fit, even though it's supposed to be reinvested in the communities that the TIF money comes from.
Right.
Well,
no, but Chicago's broke.
Chicago is not broke, and Thomas Tresser has written a book that it's not broke, and everyone who hasn't.
God bless Thomas Tresser for that book. I'm telling you, God bless him.
He shed a lot of light on what the truth is. So here's another very distressing story that comes to us from WLS ABC 7, and I'm gonna play the video for us so we can kind of be brought up to speed on what happened there.
Many people here in River North are just not used to. Residents tell us they don't even recognize the neighborhood at times, and business owners are just reluctant to even go on camera with us because of the recent uptick in crime.
So I've been really concerned about myself and people around me.
That's the common theme when talking to people around River North, a neighborhood now all too familiar to recent crime.
Am I worried? Yeah, I am. I try to just live life and think that everything will be fine and people will kind of do the right thing, but it's been hard lately.
Charges are pending for a man who was accused of stabbing a 24-year-old Chase Bank employee. Now, at last check, that woman is in serious condition at a local hospital. And a judge today denying bail for Brandon Jefferson of Wheeling. He's accused of being one of several people involved in this beating on State Street last weekend. Police still looking for other suspects. Meanwhile, the city facing criticism for the lack of officers in the 18th district where this happened. That's also forced the Cook County Sheriff's Office to send in more help to the district in hopes of deterring crime.
It sucks. I love this city. I want to stay. I don't think it's one particular person's fault. I think everybody needs to be held accountable for their own actions.
Mayor Kawash, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. It's a growing problem and one that...
What's interesting to me here in this story, Kira, is that, 70% of the federal COVID funds last year went to funding the police department, overtime, stuff like that. People there's these rash of crimes in River North. River North is starting to understand what it's like in the neighborhoods on the south and west sides now, as crime is spreading northward into the city, into the loop. And it's kind of surprising to me that with all the money that's gone to the police departments, I guess they've got more pressing matters like arresting people of color on beaches walking their dogs, as we saw last week, instead of being downtown policing the loop. I mean, I don't understand, with all the money that's gone to the police department and the increase in patrolmen on the streets, as I understand it, What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually had the immediate same thought after I read this story, and I was very short on time today to look things up
Oh,
today,
that's okay.
unfortunately. But I wanted to see like how much police patrolling is there in mostly Black neighborhoods versus places like River North? Because historically, from what I remember reading in the past, there's been a greater police population in more disenfranchised neighborhoods because that's where they're willing to arrest people for crimes,
Right.
essentially. But I think what's really interesting about this story is when you do a quick Google search in regards to police in Chicago, you'll find that a lot of Chicagoans say that they actually want more policing, and at the same time they don't trust the police because the police have given us many reasons to not trust them. And so as I was thinking on what are some of these solutions, I mean, how do you on one hand create a situation where you like would increase police presence, but do it in a way that isn't going to impact, the Black and brown communities in that area in a negative way? Because if you look at numbers, if you look at statistics, Black folks in Chicago are not interested generally about being involved in any sort of altercation conversation with police. And then I was thinking about Tom Tresser's book. Oh my gosh, here it comes again. Chicago's Not Broke. And there is a chapter in there about how much we are paying in settlements.
Yes.
For these
abuse cases.
Police abuse cases.
Violent
and
abuse
over
cases.
the past decade, Chicago's paid more than $500 million. I think Tom said in his book $600,000 for misconduct. And so what if we got rid of that qualified immunity? What if police were actually responsible for their own actions? Then we wouldn't have to budge the budget a single bit, what we're giving the police. And we could actually maybe supply a greater police force to these areas who are asking for it without actually increasing the budget, actually maybe decreasing the budget if we didn't have that massive $500 million over 10-year expense. Because I'm a proponent of defunding police. I've been very vocal about it. And
I have too.
I hear these residents. I don't want to diminish their reality, right? That they don't feel safe and that they would feel safer with more of a police presence. And what I'm saying is that could be provided without an increase to the funding of police.
Well, here's another part of the equation. I actually had a brief conversation with a friend of mine who lives in River North. Actually, I think that Chase Bank where that employee was attacked is her bank. And, she was talking about the fact that, the crime, she doesn't understand what's going on. The crime is bad. She feels sorry for the police. And I said, look, talking just about what we were here as it relates to defunding the police, I said to her, this is a decades-long problem that fits that phrase, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. In this case, giving more money to the police department instead of and this is the longer term solution, but instead of directing funds more towards mental health clinics, because apparently this guy who assaulted the bank employee is claiming he's claiming he's insane to like lower whatever the charges are that are being brought against him. Investing in these communities so that the mentally ill or those that are utterly desperate don't resort to crime. I mean, the problem is that when you're throwing all the money into the reactive solution of the police,
I don't know if this is me or if it's Jerry. I will check our comments and see if I need to filibuster. Okay, so I am. Thank you, E. Heller. It's just me. All right, so we lost Jerry. So it is just me. I'm not really sure what Jerry was saying or the point he was making. So I am going to raise up the voices of some of our live chatters here. And E. Heller, you say take back parking meters and nullify that contract. We're actually going to be having a conversation about that. Hopefully Jerry can make it back, because there is a conversation in regards to the parking meters right now, and how they are ripping us off. So there's that.
I lost my internet signal. Did you guys? I guess you were still on. I guess we didn't lose the signal on YouTube, but suddenly I went down. I don't know if was I still on screen?
You were for a moment, and then you went away.
Okay, yeah.
And now you're back.
And now I'm back. Sorry about that. I don't know where we left off, but thank you for covering for me. Apparently, there was some kind of a brief hiccup over here on my internet.
It was mostly me just wondering if it was me that froze or you.
No. Well, I think what I was talking about when I saw that the screen went black was the fact that it's as we talk about defunding the police, the longer term solution of having to invest more in what prevents the crime and what helps people than just continually shoveling money into the police departments to throw people in prisons without looking at the root cause of a lot of these problems. And I know people will say that's very utopian, but I'm sorry, all the money that's being thrown to the police departments for generations while they continue to engage in a behavior that is unbecoming of law enforcement, that then costs us those taxpayer dollars, as you were talking about in Tresser's book, kind of brings us back full circle.
Yeah. And anybody who says something about it being utopian or not being a possibility, honestly, I just hear that as being very jaded. It is a very jaded point of view, and it's a totally understandable one, being that the powers that resist those efforts are great. And so, yeah, it's going to be a lot harder to do preventative measures, because the moneyed interests are not interested in that.
No, they're not. Now, as a result of what happened in River North, I had this story up before Mr. Freeze came in and with his freeze gun and froze my screen. This is from Block Club Chicago. I always use the Batman references. I know.
I was going to say, I wish I knew a line from Mr. Freeze so that I could do a nice Arnold accent.
I can do Arnold. Arnold. As a matter of fact, I will do this story in Arnold's voice. Fighting lawlessness and violence in River North. Downtown Alderman wants more cops on weekends. All right. So this comes from Justin Lawrence at Block Club Chicago. Alderman Brendan Riley wrote Mayor Lori Lightfoot to demand more police patrols after a viral video showed two men being attacked in his ward. And this goes back to suddenly the more quote unquote civilized areas of the city are recognizing what people have to deal with in South and Western neighborhoods all the time. Mm-hmm. After two men were robbed and beaten on State Street downtown, an influential alderman wrote a fiery letter to Mayor Lori Lightfoot saying the area needs more cops. Alderman Brendan Riley of the 42nd sent the letter Monday after video of the State Street attack went viral. The video was first reported by CWB Chicago. Riley and others criticized the police response, saying it took 6 minutes for officers to arrive on the scene. A suburban man has been charged with robbery, aggravated battery, causing great bodily harm, and receiving, possessing, or selling a stolen vehicle, according to police. Riley called it a horrendous incident, terrifying my constituents and repelling future tourists from visiting our downtown hospitality corridor. Mm-hmm. The alderman, who also serves as the city council's president pro tempore, said there also were 5 recent incidents of shots being fired in the area. The lawlessness and violence in River North is getting out of hand and is now predictable on a weekly basis, Riley wrote. Local residents and tourists are scared to be in these areas after dark, and these latest incidents further reinforce that. I've had friends downtown telling me how afraid they are to take public transportation. And although I drive, I can't even imagine if I was taking public transportation needing to be fearful, because I haven't been downtown a lot with this new reality everybody's facing down there.
Well, we all know that crime right now, specifically, I think it's violent crime, is up by about 25% from previous year. And what's changed, right? What's changed? Oh, wait, there's a pandemic and people are desperate and people are very much struggling financially with their health and with housing. And what happens when people are feeling disenfranchised, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
What would you do for your family if you were starving, if you were homeless? What would you steal? What means would you take on and for what ends, and I think a lot of us can probably confidently say that we would take pretty desperate measures. And if people are desperate,
this is the desperation people are facing. Yep, the desperation people are facing. And you'd think that the blue light cameras that we have all over the city to prevent and help, the police in situations like that would work. But as I'm going to bring up, I think that the only cameras in our city that work are the red light cameras.
Shocker.
Now, we've talked about this before. This is my little pet peeve, not because
Jerry's
I
gonna
endorse.
get on his soapbox.
Here we go. Not because I endorse running reds and not because I endorse speeding, but as we know, these revenue grabs and these gotcha traps all over the city are really designed less for safety and more to generate revenue for the city. Now, this came, we heard about this a couple weeks ago. There were a couple signs throughout the city at the red light cameras that mistakenly listed or mistakenly identified the times. Apparently, these signs said that these cameras were active between 9 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. Now, the signs that were posted improperly, if you get a ticket and the sign says 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., then you're not supposed to get a ticket after 9:30 a.m., regardless of whether or not that was a mistake. But tickets were issued throughout the city. So let's play this story from CBS Chicago and kind of come up to date on it.
Constantly flashing.
You see that flashing light? And you got caught speeding. But more drivers in Chicago are on the hook for tickets they didn't deserve. Last month, CBS 2 investigator Dorothy Tucker discovered 2 speed camera warning signs in the city had the wrong information on them. The signs listed enforcement times ending at 9 or 9:30 a.m. when they should have read p.m. Investigation, the city fixed the 2 signs, tickets and refund the money. We wish we could tell you the checks are in the mail, but no word yet on that.
Of course they're not in the mail. They'll never be in the mail.
Not
who got undeserved tickets than we first reported. Turns out 2 warning signs had been wrong for months until we discovered the city's mistake. In all, more than 40,000 drivers got tickets during the months the warning signs were wrong, and the city fined them more than $1 million. We'll keep pressing for answers about when they'll pay up. And to see Dorothy's original report on those speed cameras, go to the CBS.
So I understand, Kira, that have you checked the traffic camera citations you got to cross-check the times? They might owe you, well, if you haven't paid them yet.
I just paid him today. And so
you might owe you some money then.
They might. I actually told my husband, I was like, oh, I'll have to check. And my husband's like, you sped through a park area. You owe money no matter what. And it's like, oh,
did he speed through that park area in the middle of the night where the park was nowhere near the camera? But because I see a lot. So when they said that there was the speed cameras, not the red light cameras, but the speed cameras were put at parks to protect people crossing the streets. Usually the park is like a block away from where that camera is. And like in my neighborhood over on Peterson near Lincoln Avenue, there's a bridge over the river. And that's where the speed camera is because, people are like climbing out of the river, crossing the bridge from the park where the speed camera is to protect them. That's where that particular camera went up. But we also know these cameras are are usually installed more in neighborhoods on the south, west sides. You don't see a lot downtown. You see them more in communities where people are already struggling financially. And, you got to dip into those pockets. But I will say to kind of end this story on.
Well, those are also going to be the people that don't contest.
Right. Yeah, and they just look. You can contest it, and you can actually properly contest based on another video that I did previously on the fact that the camera tickets do not properly identify your make on the tickets, which is a violation of city and state municipal codes. I won 2 actions against the city until suddenly they started telling their judges that, what do they call them, the hearings officers and the judges, not to accept that defense anymore because the law hasn't changed. They just decide rules for me, not for me, and we're going to continue to enforce these tickets even though we're not identifying the make of your vehicle, to make sure that the plate that's in the camera video matches the make of the vehicle, so that we can prove that the plate wasn't stolen and put on another vehicle,
Right.
and you're actually responsible for the ticket. They ignore that.
Wow.
And there was a judge that said apparently just looking at the make and the picture was enough, not cross-checking with the Secretary of State's office, which is bullshit. And they know it's bullshit, but because they know that there would have been a class action lawsuit against them for that, you're talking about decades of tickets issued where they don't identify the make of the vehicle, as the Illinois and state municipal, or the Chicago and state municipal code say. Now, we have a group in Chicago called the Citizens to Abolish Red Light Cameras. And as last reported by them, Mark Wallace heads this group. And I'll just talk about what the update is from them. So as of March of 2021, State Representative Deanne Mazzacci, a Republican of the 47th and Elmhurst, who has supported Oakbrook's efforts to have red light cameras at 22nd Street and Route 33 removed, has introduced a bill that would ban all red light cameras in Illinois. House Bill 1718 was filed February 11th and assigned March 19th to Transportation, Vehicles, and Safety Committee. The bill amends the Illinois Vehicle Code by repealing a section providing authority to use automated traffic law enforcement systems at intersections in which cameras are used to photograph or video record a motor vehicle's failure to stop and yield as required by traffic control signals. The bill also imposes limits on the power of local governments to use automated speed enforcement systems to provide recorded images of a motor vehicle for the purpose of recording its speed. Home rule communities would not be exempt from the provisions of the bill, which means Chicago could not use home rule laws to be exempt from what the state might pass in this bill. Can't come fast enough. I'm sure the pandemic is slowing down legislation down there, but we're going to be reporting on that if and when this particular bill hopefully passes. When red light cameras are not about motorist safety, but cynical revenue grabs, when red light cameras are implicated in pay-to-play practices, and those with the power of oversight like IDOT cannot be counted on to keep the players honest, and when our residents insist over and over again that they want them gone, but local elected officials either won't listen or can't help, then the only solution is for either red light camera reform or to end them altogether.
Yeah.
Let's keep our fingers crossed for that.
Yeah, red light cameras actually, in my opinion, they cause a lot of issues. The issues that they create are not equitable to like the safety that they provide. It's just not worth it. I've seen people slam on their brakes when they shouldn't be, just to avoid ticketing. And what it really does is it takes like the humanity out of decision making, which in some instances, yeah, that's probably a good idea. But I think when it comes to making driving choices, if it's raining and you're going a certain speed and it is smarter for you to just go than it is to stop.
Kira, that's exactly the incident I was involved in that I appealed it and I won. No, well, I appealed it after paying an attorney to go to court for me, which cost more than the ticket, which is how they prevent people from actually appealing or, trying to take it as far as they can.
Because if you don't get a lawyer, then it's going to take your time anyway. And how much is your time worth?
Well, a lawyer's also going to know better how to navigate the system in front of an appeals judge.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I've seen so many ridiculous choices being made due to a red light camera. I don't have numbers in front of me. I don't want to speak too much off the cuff, but they are detrimental in a lot of ways, and I don't think they actually create more safety.
Well, they don't. And the pay-to-play scandals that were previously reported by, I think, the Chicago Tribune just show how egregiously that this was never about safety. It was about local officials. Specifically, I think it was in Elmhurst, where they were doing these deals where they were taking kickbacks to install these cameras, making the money, and it wasn't about the safety. It was about who was greasing their own pocket.
Of course it was. Of course it flippin' was. Jesus.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed and keep following this story on the speed camera revenue grabs.
I wanted to highlight, Jerry, real quick. I know we have, I think, one more story, but I want to make sure that it gets heard. PHS King wanted our attention around the People's Party, inviting everyone to take part in hashtag Occupy Congress on Labor Day. Millions across the country are facing evictions and unemployment that is getting worse by the day. So hashtag Occupy Congress starting Labor Day. Make sure to check that out. And it is, it looks like it is PHX King. Is it Phoenix King? Mentions Nick Brana. So I'm guessing it is something that is being spearheaded by Movement for People's Party. He says the People's Party. I just wanted to make sure that it was the same organization, and it seems to be. So check that out. Hashtag Occupy Congress, Labor Day. There are actions starting.
Well, as far as our last story goes, I was going to share. This was kind of an editorial by Street Blogs Chicago regarding, more revenue grabs with parking meters. It's a bit of a long editorial. It was written by Michael Rogers. I'll just go through a little bit of it because, it further explores how we're just like constantly screwed, whether it's the parking meters or the traffic camera program. When former Mayor Richard M. Daley forced the passage of the contract that sold off Chicago's parking meters near the end of his administration in 2008, he struck one of the worst deals for Chicago ever. The contract, which outsourced the operational responsibilities and revenue rights for Chicago's metered parking to private investors represented by Morgan Stanley for a period of 75 years. Now that money, I think he got was gone.
Can you believe that?
75 years, and they went through the money from the deal, I think, in a year, whatever that amount was, has been detested ever since. And where did that money go? Drivers hated the metered rate increases. Everyone would have preferred the parking revenue stay with the city. Nowadays, hating the deal is like eating hot dogs without ketchup. Right. It's part of the city's cultural heritage. The contract has been particularly frustrating for sustainable transportation advocates. One particularly confounding clause dictates that the number of metered spots remain fixed just above 30,000 citywide. In other words, Chicago has very limited control over significant portions of its streetscape because it must maintain these metered parking spots, and also that some investors can profit easily. I think some of the investors were also based in Dubai. So Chicago street parking meters are siphoning money overseas to Saudi Arabia.
Hey, people in Dubai got to eat,
Yeah, I know. The emirs with all of their wealth and their palaces. Oh my goodness. This often complicates or blocks efforts to install robust bus or bike lanes, let alone pedestrianizing streets. If metered spaces are removed to make room for more productive uses of right-of-way, Chicago is required to either create new metered spaces elsewhere or pay a to the concessionaire.
This is something that blew my mind, right?
Yeah.
The private company that owns the meters basically owns the street.
Yeah. Not the taxpayers who pay the taxpayer dollars to maintain or the streets to begin with. So yeah, I mean, I what's the solution to this? I don't know. I just thought it kind of, when I came across it along with the traffic cameras and how much money is coming out of our pocket.
This is completely representative of how government officials sell out, right?
Chicago, especially.
Let's look at this, like what, and one of the things that's really important about looking at how Chicago operates is largely it is a microcosm of the larger picture, right? So we just had Eu come on at the beginning of at the top of the show talking about, we did an action because there's this $3.5 trillion bill that we want to get through, and right now as it stands, It looks like only a single $1 trillion infrastructure bill is going to go through. And inside of that $1 trillion infrastructure bill, there's a bunch of giveaways to private corporations so that we can pay tolls to use streets for the rest of our lives. And this is that, just with parking meters, right? So it's like, what are we getting ourselves into when we basically sell off our roads to private industry, and that means that if they don't think it's a good idea to create a bike lane instead of a money-making opportunity, then they're going to strike down that bike lane. And, and I'm talking about a single bike lane on a single street in the city of Chicago, and then upscale that. And then where's the conversation for climate change?
Exactly.
And it's really gross.
Yeah.
And this is exactly
predatory.
Exactly the deal that our national legislators are like just about to make. It parallels that. And
Well, this author,
classic neoliberalism, right?
Well, that's all neoliberalism is about. I mean, neoliberalism is about essentially adopting what we used to think were Republican policies, and because look, there's more money. The Democrats saw there was more money to be made by playing the same game as the Republicans did by embracing big business corporations and Wall Street. We just got two sides of the same coin. Now, this author of this particular article does offer a solution. He says, but as long as the city aims to work within the contract we've all been stuck with, we're acknowledging the deal's legitimacy, and we shouldn't be prioritizing private interests over public ones. And this speaks to what you just shared. It leaves citizens on the hook for all the costs while investors profit. Chicago shouldn't tolerate any of these things. We all know it was a bad deal. We all know Daley screwed us. Let's just throw up our arms and do what's best and what we want to do finally and break the deal. Reneging on the contract would likely cause some pain for Chicago. It would almost certainly result in a lawsuit, and it would likely probably require the city to pay handsomely in a court settlement. But we should really ask, what's wrong with that? If we took over the meters again, that revenue could be means for paying back the debt. It took less than 15 years for the investors to start making profits on their investments. Why shouldn't the city plan for the same? Furthermore, Chicago has options to challenge the contract. The city should explore using legal tools like its reserve powers or force majeure, or irresistible greater force that prevents someone from fulfilling a contract to attack its underpinning structure. Using the former, the city can argue it needs complete control over what is now metered on street parking to effectively carry out its right and responsibility to manage traffic. Regarding the latter, if ever there was a force majeure, it is the climate crisis. What you just said, Kira, you come so well prepared. There's no question that the transportation is a major contributor to climate change, and the city must be able to act accordingly to reduce the associated emissions. That requires breaking the contract. Chicago could also force arbitration or simply ignore the deal. It's not like Chicago hasn't taken such bold moves before. I find it incredibly ironic that City Hall has for years said we're stuck with the contract, when the mayor who forced it through is equally famous for literally destroying an airport in the dark of night because he wanted to. So why not do the same thing with the parking meter deal?
Yeah. This parking meter deal actually went into effect about 1.5 years after I moved to Chicago, and I remember being astounded. Astounded
As
at it.
E. Heller shares, Chicago could do the Darth Vader thing and alter the deal. Thanks, E. Heller. I can always rely on him to toss something into the conversation to lighten it up a little bit. Well, another one we got to keep track of and follow.
I love that he brought up Darth Vader because I almost brought up Darth Vader during the Jim Gardner story, because he kind of looks like Darth Vader without the helmet on. But
he
didn't want to
does.
be mean. And now I don't care.
I don't think we can treat politely the people who have such contempt for the rest of us. I mean, I think that we can speak silently but carry a big stick back against these people.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, This was actually this was a great story, and I do think it's a big issue. And it is interesting, E. Heller's suggestion about the city filing for bankruptcy. And
we must alter the deal.
alter the deal. Yeah, love it. Love it. Let's do it.
Hey, Kira, is there anything coming up aside from we're waiting on word from Kit and Daniel on the finishing of the new studio? I know they've been working hard all week. Hardlands Media was not able to broadcast tonight because I don't know that they got their internet up yet, and I know that they're working tirelessly to get that studio together so that they can broadcast next week. Have you heard anything on that front from the guys?
I was in the studio on Wednesday because I went to the action and then I went over there to look at the new studio space. It's beautiful, by the way, and the location is so amazing. It's amazing. And so I'm super excited about that. But I was like, so am I not going to be on the show for 2 weeks? Because obviously there wasn't a show on Wednesday, and then we would be gone another week. If we waited for internet, and they said that we would be broadcasting remotely. So
okay, Lainey and I went on.
I just assumed I'd be doing it from home.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought, because Lainey asked me to go on last night with her for Chicago for Civically Minded, which we did, which was great.
I saw a little segment of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I obviously it's not going to be as professionally polished as it was while they were in the studio until they get the new studio up. But there's certainly the possibility or the opportunity to still remotely broadcast. But I know that they're also up to their necks in getting stuff done. I saw some pictures of the new studio. It's amazing. It's huge. There's going to be so many opportunities.
It's so big. My sister came in and lent us her eye for interior design, and it's gonna be really beautiful. But when we get to broadcast, I like, am I wearing my pajamas? Maybe. See, when we do it from home, we could do those sorts of things, can't we?
We can. As David Letterman used to say, I'm doing this broadcast right now, and I'm not wearing pants.
I'm not wearing pants. I'm wearing a pair of like boxer shorts, I guess. They're not boxer shorts like men's boxer shorts, like boxing shorts, and then just a tank top. I slept in this last night, and I just haven't changed my clothes all day.
Well,
so
I admit,
you're welcome, everybody.
I'm wearing shorts myself since nobody can see me. To have to be comfortable. Right. But the thing about the new studio. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go.
I was going to say I'm really excited about the new studio because we've talked about broadcasting Chicago corner from there, and building a nice set using the fancy signs that I built for the opening show intro. But I must say we're going to have to factor in commute time because it's so easy to just jump in the shower, shave here, come on the show, do it remotely as opposed to actually planning to get to the studio. But I think that those higher production values are going to be worth it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I was really bummed when Dan requested that I start coming to the studio after the whole lockdown thing and stuff. He was like, please be making it. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll come to the studio. And so I started going to the studio, and the energy is just better.
Yes.
Quality is better. I always come prepared. I'm a pretty prepared person.
Oh, you inspire me when I guest co-host. I have no. It's like I got to live up to her standards and her exceptional qualities. So I would research stories before I went into to co-host one. Oh no, absolutely. I'm very impressed by your prep. And when I think I was asked, when was it? Daniel was out of town or Kit was when either of them were out of town, I'm just like, okay, they've invited me to bring stories, so I want to make sure I'm as well prepared as Kira is.
Wow, thank you.
No, totally.
I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate that. Yeah, I just always want to make sure that I am, bringing, like, our audience could watch anything. I mean, there is a smorgasbord of options out there. And so, I just want to make sure that when I show up, I come correct. It's really important to me. And
Ecuadorian Taco says you bring the receipts.
I do bring the receipts. I don't play around. So when we were remote, I was still pretty prepared as far as that's concerned. But there's just something energetically that's very different.
Yeah.
About like being in my house and, only being seen from here up, and like showing up to a professional studio where I am, decked out, even like I wear high heels to the studio. No one sees my feet. You know what I mean? But like, there's something about that. And I just think something really different and magical gets created when we're there, when we're together.
Well, there's also the energy in the studio that you're bouncing off each other in person, and that does make a difference. So
I look forward to that.
Yeah, no, I am too. I can't wait for the celebration party once they get everything done that we're talking about.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. I need to get on the Slack and send a message. Okay. Because I'm not available for the night that we're choosing.
No, we're not. Well, then we're going to have to change the night.
Yeah, no, you're going to have to change the night.
I think that's why they were floating it. They were like, is this night good with everybody? So they'll definitely have to reschedule. So
Yes, we'll have to reschedule it. But I'm so looking forward to that as well. I think I'm going to have a hand in throwing that party. And I think that's probably the main reason. Because I am the ultimate party thrower. I don't know if y'all knew that about me, but I am.
We know now. Is there anything else coming up on your end that you want to share with our viewers tonight before we bring the broadcast to a close?
Well,
or
as of right now,
about Comfy Fitness.
Yeah, well, I was going to go in that direction. Well, let's start with any activism stuff. So right now, I'm doing efforts out here in my neck of the woods for Fair Vote Illinois. Still working on ranked choice voting, and getting that as a thing in the state of Illinois. We're going by municipalities right now, but ultimately the idea is to get the entire state of Illinois on ranked choice voting. So I'm working on that presently. And then Comfy Fitness is my company, and we are, while we are an S corp, we are a business in Chicago. Really, largely the way that we operate is based in progressive ideals, and so we offer our online membership in what's called a gift economy. So that means that anybody who has internet has access to what it is we're offering online. What we specialize in is conscious embodied fitness. So generally people who have issues with mobility and movement, but still want to be active people. Those are our folks. And we love working with them. And we do all kinds of different modalities of movement, from somatic movement education, which helps people re-educate and recalibrate the way they move at the level of their nervous system, all the way up to your basically classic body sculpt sort of classes. But they all are inside of the umbrella of conscious embodied fitness. So definitely check us out at comfyfitness.com. Ayana, there you are. I've been wondering where you are.
Right there.
And yes, Ayana is a Comfy Fitness lover of Comfy Fitness. And we have a lot of fun. We have a great staff. We have great folks, and a lot of a massive variety of classes, Qigong, tremoring, clinical somatics, strong and centered classes, full body sculpt, so many. So check us out.
Everybody knows where to find her, right down there.
So check me out.
Check her out. You can find her on Twitter, Comfy Fitness. Just shout outs to Daniel and Kit. I know you guys are working hard. We can't wait to see you back in the new studio. Special thanks to E. Heller for moderating tonight's show in the live chat. Thanks to everybody who's joined us, whose comments I love rotating into our conversation here, because our viewers are as important as us, and if not more important, in covering the stories and
mega
offering
smart.
The commentary.
Mega smart. Mega smart. Like I'll usually toss something out, and I'm like, I know someone in our chat's gonna know this. I'm confident that I'll be able to get this question answered. from our chat. So
I'm always like looking at the live chats. Like I want to see what everyone else has to contribute to it because I get tired of listening to myself, and I want to hear what everyone else thinks.
Totally.
And that's a lot about what Chicago Corner is about. So I would encourage you, if you have stories from your neighborhood, you can email me, jerry@chicagocorner.tv. We're not just about news and politics. We want to cover stories from all the neighborhoods in Chicago. Please, as always, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. I'm sure that everyone who's in the live chat has already subscribed to us, but go ahead and share our channel on your social media, your Facebook, your Twitter, even your Instagram, because the sooner we get to 1,000 subscribers, I don't have to like drink from my Chicago Corner mug.
I love it. It's so good. And Ayana, you're right. Ayana will know. Ayana will
begging people to like to purchase from our Cafe Press store below to help raise some money towards our streaming costs. So listen, everybody, it's Friday night. Go out, have fun, be safe, wear your masks. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. If you have to go out, make it out of necessity, not out of indulgence, to be careful with this horrible Delta variant that is still affecting all of us. It looks like little Oreo wants to say goodnight too.
Oreo! Oreo, you're so cute. I love you.
So I found out really quickly, it's not that he wants to be a pest. Apparently cats are focused on what we're focused on. And that's why they're always in our faces on our keyboards.
I just thought Collie was a little ham.
Well, maybe that factors into it a little bit. But someone said if I want to keep him off my keyboard when I'm broadcasting, I should get another keyboard to put to the side, and hopefully he'll look at that instead of the one I'm focusing on, because it's all the curiosity of what we're looking at here. Right, buddy?
They're so cute.
Yeah.
They're so cute. I can't.
I'm lucky I have them. Well, remember, if it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Have a great weekend, everybody. Kira, thanks so much for joining me. I love when you can come on the show. Back to you. Good night, Chicago.
Always happy to see you. Bye, Jerry. Bye, everybody.